Gran Turismo 4 is underway, as we have now acquired the B license. Now we must go after the A license, which is our second of 5. And as to what I plan on doing after the A license, well, I haven't decided yet, but I do have an idea over what it is I'm going to be doing. So let's head over to the license center. As you can see there, we got the B license. We got the B license on all gold, and we also got the gold in the coffee break as well, which also helps. So 16 tests again, plus a coffee break, as we begin at high speed ring with this pair of complex corners. And part of the reason I say that is because I know this test takes place at high speed ring. And also because, well, I can definitely say the second test we do here is easier than the first test, in terms of getting the gold, as I found out many moons ago. That's a long description. You know what? I'm just gonna scroll through it. It's a bit too long for me to be patient enough for it. Again, you can always read the description at your own time. In all honesty, it doesn't really make much of a difference to me whether you pay attention to the information side or not. Basically, I more or less just want to race. And I am running wide. But I do manage to keep the car within the track limits. And I wind up being a 10th off the silver. Okay. So, not too bad for a first attempt, but I'm convinced in saying I can do better than this. Let's try and see if we can gain less than half a second. We are very close to the gold now. I'm literally knocking on the door of getting the gold now. Just need a little bit more time and then we should be there. Okay. That's it. Okay. Yeah, I think I've got him now. I think this should be enough for the gold from what I can see. And yes, it is. By virtually 3/4 of a tenth, or by less than half a tenth, we got the gold in the Mitsubishi FTO with a 30.702. And now we get to move on to the fun test, because basically we are more or less doing the same test again, except for saying this time we are doing the following test in a Lotus Elise. And there's the description again. Again, there's a lot of information to process here. Okay, I'm not gonna waste any more of your time. Let's actually get on with this and see if we can get the gold first try. I definitely feel a lot more freedom in this car than I did in the Mitsubishi. I know that for sure. And we get the gold by a quarter of a second. Literally a quarter of a second. We got the gold. We got the gold first try in the Lotus Elise. So that's now 2 tests down, and we still have another 14 tests to go. Let's try and see if we can push ourselves even further. As this time we are now at Deep Forest Raceway, and where we are now driving a Mitsubishi ECLIPSE, is this? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it says it right there. Mitsubishi ECLIPSE Spyder. I just had to remember that for a moment. Anyway, here's the description. Let's actually get on with the lesson now. Huh. First time I actually pass it, I literally get the gold. I did not think the first time I was actually going to pass the lesson was going to be enough for a gold. That's actually amazing in my opinion. You know what? Yeah. I'm going to save the replay, because I was honestly shocked myself to say that I actually got the gold on that test the first time I actually passed it. And I think it probably took me at least 4 attempts for me to eventually pass it and get the gold. As in, I just had to focus on keeping my car on the track and not running wide on the exit, as I had done a multitude of times. Anyway, 3 tests down, and still 13 to go, with the inclusion of the coffee break. As we are now at Suzuka Circuit, and where we are driving a Subaru Legacy. Hopefully I gave you enough time to read through the description. I'm gonna pretend that previous attempt did not just happen. I'm actually going to upshift this time. Maybe see if that does make a difference. And this time, it does. As I get the gold by less than a tenth. I'm pretty sure that's now 3 tests in a row that I've passed on my first completed try. That's actually one thing I didn't think was going to be possible, but nonetheless, here we are, as we're now a quarter of the way there with the A license. And we have now done a total of 21 tests in the license centre altogether. And now we move on to test number 5, which is us doing 1 lap around the Grand Valley East circuit, and where the car we are driving is an Audi A3. I'm also pretty sure this thing is 4-wheel drive, so I don't really think revs are going to matter all that much. But we'll see how we go. I more or less know my way around Grand Valley East. I can certainly guarantee it's not going to be too much of a mean feat for me to get the gold. around this place. And personally, I think the revitalized Grand Valley circuit that they added in GT7 more recently, I think the revitalized circuit they added, I'd say it's alright. It's not quite as good as the original Grand Valley, but I think it's alright. I guess it's because they were more or less wanting to, I don't know, create some sort of fucking reboot. And basically just, well, you know, redesign the track, as well as revitalize the surroundings. I'll be amazed if this is not a gold first try, judging by the way I'm currently going. And yep. I just put together a goodly consistent lap, and that, believe it or not, was what got me the gold. So there we are. 5 tests down and still 11 to go. I will also have to save a replay of a 1 lap time trial run at some point. That is on my list of things to do before the end of this. Anyway. So again, another relatively long description in the information section. As ever, and I know I'm going to keep saying this, but read it at your own pace if you want to. Doesn't really make much of a difference to me over how you choose to approach these lessons or not. As long as you find a way to do it that works for you, then, well, in all honesty, I don't really care. And only 3/10 off the gold. Well, I think that pretty much ends my gold first try streak at 4 tests. So, let's actually try and see if we can get the gold this time. I really took a gamble with that upshift, but I'll be amazed if it works. I just figured it was worth it to try and take a gamble and see if I could actually gain the time, and believe it or not, I do. So, believe it or not, my upshift heading into the corner actually paid off, because I got the gold by 1.5 tenths. That's amazing. Although, I guess part of the reason why I'm making a lot of these tests look so easy as well, because I've been playing a lot of games recently where I've basically got to push the car and push it hard. That could be the other reason why I'm making a lot of these tests look easy. Whereas with this game at least, you don't have to quite go hell for leather on all of these tests. I guess that must be the main reason as to why I'm doing so well at the moment. Because I have been playing a lot of hard-balled games recently. Most notable of those I can think of being probably Midnight Club 3. And now we get to do our first test at Nürburgring Nordschleife. Oh my god, okay. Okay, I think we're good. I think we're good now. Yeah, we're definitely good now. I definitely had to be risky there, but I did manage to keep my car on the track this time. And I did manage to gain the right amount of exit speed that was needed off the corner apex. So anyway, I'm gonna need a drink for a moment. RB. Okay, here we go. Yeah. I'm gonna have to edit this bit out. Yeah, sorry about that. I really had to go and get myself a drink because, well, my throat was basically going up a tea again. And I had to get it sorted out. So here we are now at El Capitan for the halfway point lesson of this game. And where, after driving a Mercedes SLK and a Volkswagen Golf GTI in the two previous lessons, we are now driving a Mazda RX-8 around this section of El Capitan. So, let's see how we go. I'm convinced in saying this won't be too hard for me to get the gold. Oh, yep, I definitely had a snap of oversteer there on that corner exit. Well, at least I got the silver. So, I am 3+ tenths off. Let's actually see if we can gain those tenths. And this time, I got a much smoother exit off the corner now. Yeah, this is definitely in gold territory from what I can see. Yeah, just as I thought. I literally gained dead on 4 tenths on that second run. I think it just goes to show that being the smooth operator, pun intended, actually works. Because I literally gained 4 tenths flat on that second run. Okay, time for the coffee break now. I think I might know which one this is, if I recall correctly. Yeah, just as I thought. So, we are on the Gymkhana course again, and where this time, instead... Yeah, by the way, this training car is not an Opel Speedster Turbo. This is clearly a Peugeot 206 convertible. Just to be perfectly clear, this is definitely not a Speedster Turbo. This is very clearly a Peugeot 206, just to be clear. So instead of us actually avoiding the cones, we now have to hit the cones. And 28.5 seconds is what we need for a gold. And this is going to be interesting because we have to hit 100 of these cones. So it is fair to say that experience is going to be what will favour me if I do manage to somehow get the gold here. Well, at least I get the silver, but we're still a second off. So let's try and see if we can gain that second. Yes! There we go. God, that was mind-boggling. I literally had to probably go about as hard as I could possibly go with first gear, and then basically, once I really started to get my car locked in the spiral, that was eventually when I managed to achieve success. Still, I gotta say, that's actually pretty hard to get your head around, but once you get used to it, you eventually do manage to work your way forwards. And now we are at Suzuka Circuit again, where this time we are driving a 2004 Honda Civic Type R. In other words, the EP model, not the EK model. As we are at the first two S-bends of the Suzuka circuit. And as I slowly scroll through the description, excuse me, let's actually get ourselves going. See how long it takes before we get the gold. I really want to try and pass here, if possible. And I do. Okay, so not too bad for a first run, but I'm convinced in saying there's more in it, so let's try and see if we can gain another 1400ths. I'm just dealing with a lot of understeer right now in this car. But it doesn't matter because this time we actually get it done. Even though I accidentally left my capture card on record for a few minutes longer than I should have done, but whatever. Because I was taking care of something. But anyway, there we go. So that's now 9 tests down, plus the coffee break. And now we just have another 7 tests to go. As we are now doing the full lap of Suzuka Circuit, and by this time we are driving a Honda Integra. I think I know precisely where both Degner and 130R are positioned. I know a few corners around Suzuka, but not too many of them. Anyway, for this test, the training car is a Honda Integra Type R, model DC5. Alright, let's go. So, 1 full lap of Suzuka Circuit, and because we are driving a Honda Integra around this track. One thing I have to make damn sure I do not do, even though it's probably going to be relatively easy to do so, is overtake the pace car. I need to stay behind the pace car at all costs. There is probably no way this could possibly get any worse right now. Because I am pretty fucking mad with myself. And I say that because I was so close to the end of the lap, and then right before the end, because I had to deal with the paced car, coasting right in front of me, as we're now through the S-curbs and heading through Dunlop, I, unsurprisingly, had to fucking collide with the pace car. Right when we were at the chicanes, I just basically had to shit myself right at the worst possible time. When I actually thought for sure I was going to be on pace to pass the test, instead, the game decided I was simply going too fast, even though I had literally saved the car from running wide at 130R, which is probably what would have happened had I not lifted and corrected the understeer that was plaguing me on the corner exit. And this is probably where it gets really tempting for you to want to pass the pace car, but like I said, you must do whatever it takes to stay behind the pace car. Do so at any cost. And also brake early if you have to, because if you go too deep, then you'll basically run into the back of the pace car, which I can assure you is what you don't want. But either way, after 4 failed attempts, we actually pass. And we managed to pass with a 246.2, because when it comes to these one-lap guides, I wind up going hell for leather, and that's what pulls me through. So there we go. So that's now 10 tests down, and we still have another 6 to go. So let's now get through our next one at Grand Canyon, where we are driving a Lancia Delta. And here is the description. I'm not going to read through it because I know there's too much for me to read with these lips. Okay, let's go. Oh yeah, I should also mention we do get to hear the sounds of air horns as well. And I barely even pass. Okay, let's try that again. See if this time around we can actually put together something with a bit more accuracy. There we go, that's more like it. I did not think me touching that outside net was actually going to help me get the pace, but I think it did. Anyway, there we go. 11 tests down, and we still have another 5 to go. I think the next one we're doing is at Tahiti Maze, if I recall correctly. I have done all these tests before, so I am somewhat familiar with this. And yes, it is, as we are driving the Subaru IMPREZA around these 3 consecutive hairpins at Tahiti Maze. And also scrolling through the description, too much for me to read. Plus I would technically be wasting your time, so let's actually try and see if we can get through this. I can definitely say they updated this course from when I last saw it. How far off am I going to be? Okay, 4/10 off. I think it's because my corner entries were too wide. So let's try and see if we can get that time back again. Finally. God, that one complex of corners is really hard to figure out. Okay, anyway. There we go. After struggling for a bit to try and get some sort of pattern established, but there we go. 12 tests down, and we still have another 4 to go. And then after that, we'll pretty much be done with the A license. However, before we get on with this, I'm going to take a break for a few minutes because, well, my head is just not in the zone right now, and I need a few minutes to get it back in the zone, so I'll be RB. Alrighty then. So, after a brief little interval for me to try and get my head sorted out, hopefully we should more or less be back in the zone now. So, we have 4 tests to go as our next one takes place here at Trial Mountain, and the car we are driving is a Nissan Skyline GT-R R32. And this is the description. As ever, you can read it at your own pace. And let's now get it on with test 13 of the A license. And we'll see how we go. I have no doubt in saying this is probably going to take me a while to eventually get everything sussed out. But I'm convinced in saying I can work something out, because I have done this test before in previous games. I am hopeful in saying I can do the same again, if that's at all possible. And that's a wall. This is probably going to take a while for me to get everything figured out. and the same can also be said for the silver as well. Okay, let's now try and see if we can go 1.7 seconds faster. Thank God. That took me way too many tries to beat. I was literally so close on so many occasions, and yet this time around I actually got it done. I probably had to be very close at least 6 times before I actually got it done. But there we go. I think that's probably the hardest test of the A license now done. Now we just have 3 to go, and where hopefully these other ones will not be as much of an extremely convoluted task to just try and go fast enough to actually reach the gold time. As we are back at the Nürburgring again, and this time we are driving an Audi TT. Please do not let this one be as hard as the other one was, please. I'm so glad that did not take anywhere near as long to get the gold as it did the previous test, because I really had to make sure I nailed that second gear upshift. Basically, I had to go deep into the corner, and then I had to make sure that the understeer was not going to just throw me into the grass. I basically had to do what was probably some in-car wizardry to just keep my car balanced long enough to actually consist myself with adapting to the undulation. Yeah, you know what? I think after the A license, because these descriptions are a bit too long, I might actually just stop. Excuse me. I might just stop scrolling through those information paragraphs altogether, because I think up to this point they're just getting too long for me to read. As we are driving a Mazda 6 for this lesson. But I've more or less figured out what needs to be done now. Just need to make sure I get it done somehow. Oh, I'm running wide, but somehow not going off track. Thankfully. I think I braked a little too much there for that right-hander. But either way, I think I know precisely where I need to be faster. Because I do have the experience of driving thousands of laps around Trial Mountain. In this game, as well as the games before and after, with the games that feature Trial Mountain, which is pretty much almost every game in the series. I'm now up by 6/10, so for now at least, I look to be on course for potentially scoring a gold. Because I have managed to rectify myself from the mistakes I've made before so far. Just depends on knowing if I can actually make it this time, and I do. By virtually a second, I went faster. And there we go. Now we just have one lesson to go. And once again, we are heading back to the Nürburgring. But I reckon this final lesson will more or less be a bit more catered to my style because, well, we will be driving a Mazda RX-7 around this section of the Nordschleife, as we are heading past the carousel. This will take a little while for me to fully get used to, but I reckon it is possible for me to get there, even though I will be sliding around a lot, but I more or less know what it is I need to do here. I rather like this test, because I do actually feel like I have plenty of control in the car as I do it. Okay, I gained 3/10 on that run. So that now puts me just 4/10 off. So I'm definitely closing in, from what I can see. Just need to be a bit faster and then we should be able to get everything to work out. Need to be 4/10 up if I'm really going to get this nailed. Yep, I am loose. Okay. Please stay on track. Okay. We got it this time. I am so glad to say the lesson did not jinx me this time. We actually did it. And that is now the end of the A license, for which I have beaten using the Mazda RX-7. I will also have to get at least one thumbnail shot of the Nürburgring whilst I think about it. I think that might be a consideration. And for this part of the video at least, I have now just reached 1 hour in terms of recording time. But either way, there we go. We've done it. We have now beaten the A license, and we get a shot of the Nürburgring in the background. But anyway, there it is. The A license is ours. And what else is ours? For all bronze, we get the Pontiac Sunfire GXP concept. For all silver, we get the Honda Dual Note. I'm pretty sure in the North America version this is known as the Acura DNX, if I'm not mistaken. And for all gold, we get the Gran Turismo licensed NissanSkylineGT-R. Cool. I'm also pretty sure we do win the pace car at some point. But anyway, there we go. It's done. The A license has now been sweeped. And now we just have to move on to the International B license. So let's go and look at our new cars. So, for all bronze, we get this Shadow Black Pontiac Sunfire GXP concept from 2002, which I think is pretty cool. And as a matter of fact, I might just consider using this thing at some point. For all silver, we get this 4-wheel drive Honda Dual Note, or as it says up there, Honda V6 IMA Mid Dual Note. Nice. And last but not least, with an incredible 533 horsepower, we get the Nissan Gran Turismo Skyline GT-R. And I can definitely say the livery works very well with this thing. But there we go. It's done. So that's now 2 licenses done and dusted. And next time we will be getting on with the International B license. Coming in the next episode.